very good afternoon, good morning and welcome my friends. I am Raghunandan Sengupta from the IME department IIT Kanpur. So, this is a series of lectures of 20 hours and each being for half an hour, and as you know that these courses would be such that we will have a 8-week schedule for this class, and what is the details I am going to come to that very soon. And this 8 weeks would basically have the concepts covered in details with problems with concepts and which some theoretical work also. And as per the norm we will have an assignments given after each week. So, they would be 8 assignments and there would be one end semester examination based on whatever has been taught. Now, what is the actual area which I am going to discuss? So, the title of the course, if you see, it mentions is total quality management philosophies and the concept. So, this is the series of lectures, as I said, of 20 hours, which would be about 40 lectures in the total, covering all in depth the concept of what we mean by quality, quality circles, concept of quality, what are the different concepts of statistical process control, what are the different type of distributions which are used, what is concept of sampling, how sampling is done for quality control, for quality tests, what are the different type of charts we have, the P charts, the R charts, the X bar charts, and how these charts can be utilized to have a detailed look about the quality concepts. We will also go into in quite depth about the producers risk, consumer risk, the QC curves, and basically how when a vendor and a supplier are transporting different services can be actual products which are being delivered from the server to the customer, it can be actually services. So, how one can take control and utilize different concepts of quality concepts and try to improve the quality being rendered to the customer from the vendor's end. So, we will consider that in detail. Detail means we will definitely go into depth about what are the different concepts from the mathematical point of view along with problem solving. An interesting part of this lecture would be we will also consider series of lecture will be we in between we will consider about 15-20 minutes detail about R, the statistical package not in depth, but in general such that one can utilize R and its library functions and download R and utilize R to basically solve simple problems in QC and how to draw the QC curves, how to draw the distribution sampling curves depending on sample size, how many number of samples you are going to do, and what is the level of confidence of alpha and beta. What is alpha and beta? I am going to come to that later on, and all these things will be considered. Then we will also go into the concepts of quality like fishbone diagram, the concepts of how qualitative things can be brought into the picture for quality, house of quality, what are the philosophies of quality control. We will also consider the ISO concepts and so on and so forth. So, what I mentioned was in very brief, and as we go through the lectures, the slides, the assignments, we will see that the concepts of quality, total quality management will become much more clearer to the people who are going to take this subject, which is part 1 as their online course. Now, obviously, there would be a second part about which I am going to just mention as the name would imply, the total quality management part 2, which we will consider in depth the concept of design of experiments and how those concepts can be utilized for quality control and statistical process control and so on and so forth. So, to give a brief background about from where to read. So, that is the obviously the next question. So, generally I have utilized the book which is Introduction to Statistical Process Control by Douglas C. Montgomery, which is quite a classic book, and I have heavily utilized that to bring in the concept, to basically bring in different type of very innovative problems which are there in the exercise and to solve them. And I would strongly urge the students that they can definitely use this book by Montgomery to get a very good understanding about the concepts which I will discuss. And obviously, there are seminal handbooks by Juran, seminal very interesting write-ups by Deming, and then people definitely would understand and read the work which has been done at Toyota's and what work is being done at different manufacturing companies in India like Sundaram Fasteners, like Tata Motors also tries to use these quality concepts in a quite depth. So, I will just fleetingly mention them, but generally the main book would be considering would be the Montgomery's book. And people who can buy this book, if Indian versions are there, or basically get the book from the library, can definitely utilize that, because this is quite a good reading, slow and steady reading, but it will definitely build up the concepts as required. So, we will start off very slowly by considering what is quality, what we mean by the concept of quality, and generally how quality can be brought into the things. But before I start off the course or start the lectures, I would like to emphasize the fact that quality, what I will teach and what is generally meant, would basically be in depth, in the sense that quality, whenever one mentions quality, quality does not mean that bringing quality in, say for example, in trying to basically improve the manufacturing process, or trying to basically improve the services which you are rendering to the customer. It basically means much more philosophically, in the sense that you are trying to improve your quality of teaching. It may improve that how you are trying to improve your quality of life, how you are trying to improve your quality time utilized, how are you going to improve the overall infrastructure of a company, of an infrastructure of the country. So, all these things which basically would mean that there is a concept of quality basically, which means increase of improvement of the level of services in whatever sense you want to render to yourself and to the other people who are associated with you, in such a way that it gives some value, positive value in the overall the things which you are going to give to your customer. It may be, say for example, you want to teach a very good course. So, obviously, you want to improve the quality of the slides, you may improve the quality of the problems you are going to solve, it may improve the quality of the type of concepts you are going to utilize, it may also be dependent on the type of examples you want to give. So, on then sense you want to improve the quality. Quality may be, say for example, you want to start the meeting on time, or you want to basically have a very good agenda, you want to basically finish the meeting on time, or you want to basically do the work based on the meeting on time. So, all these things would basically mean in a very general sense that what actually quality is. Quality is a very broad aspect. Obviously, I would not be able to do justice on each and every aspect. I will try to basically discuss from the mathematical point of view what actually we mean by quality and how quality can be brought into existence in few of the discussions which we will do. So, as I said, that quality is one of the most important decision factors in selection of product and services. It can be product and it can be a services also. Product can be, say for example, you are manufacturing a car, you are manufacturing a lathe machine, you are manufacturing a chair, you are manufacturing a table, you are manufacturing, say for example, a different type of chemical. So, obviously, quality will come into the manufacturing process. It can be services also. So, like you are serving food, you are serving some services like that, you are delivering packages, like Indian Postal Service may try to basically improve their quality, where the main emphasis would be to basically give the best services. It may be, say for example, there is a bank and it wants to give the best quality of services to its customers. So, obviously, it would be emphasizing the concept of quality for this bank and this post office, or say for example, the airlines, or say for example, the food industries, or may say for example, the hospital, and all these things would basically emphasize on the services from the point of view of quality and try to improve the overall services they render to its customers. Customers can be, as I mentioned, for the hospital can be its patients, the family members of the patient. For the airline can be, say for example, the people who are flying or traveling in the airline. Say for example, for the postal services, it may be people who have their pensions, who have their postal insurance, who basically who want products or packages to be delivered from one place to another. So, obviously, all these things are basically related to services with the customer wants to have from the supplier. supplier, as I mentioned, are these like things the government, for the Indian Postal Service, for the government being the Indian Airlines, for the food industry, for the restaurant industry, and for the fashion industry, and all these things. Quality would also mean understanding and improving the quality leads to business successes, because one should remember that if you are able to deliver quality, good products, good services at a lower cost or at the same cost, people would definitely be willing to take your products, take your services. And obviously, it would mean that your business, service sector, manufacturing sector, government sector, whatever it is, you increase your competence, increase your market share, increase your overall value to the customers, increase your overall value to the society. May not be on the monetary front, it basically can be on the front that you are able to give a better life to your citizen as a government, or you are able to give a better services to your customers if you are a doctor, or maybe say for example, you are town planner. Consider Jamshedpur as a city in Jharkhand. So, if you have the improvement in the quality infrastructure of the city, obviously you are able to give a better services to your citizens, or it may be say for example, you are able to give a good services to the citizens from the point of the police or the law enforcement agency. So, obviously it will give a better feel of life both conceptually and otherwise to the customers who are getting your services. Your means the basically the vendor on whatever account what I am talking about. So, quality can be defined as a possession of one or more desirable characteristics of a product or services. So, obviously this characteristics may be tangible, intangible. So, if for example, if I am able to deliver a very good product which is very considered a laptop, if I am able to deliver a laptop which is really very highly efficient in the sense the processing power is very high, the RAM is very good, the cooling phenomena of the laptop very good, or the battery life is very good even if it is not working on electricity. So, if I am able to do that, so these are services which I render to my customer. On the other hand, so these are maybe tangible one where I can see, I can feel, like lightweight of a laptop means I can feel it. If the cooling capacity is very good, that means I can use it at a very high temperature or high humidities when the AC is not working. Or say for example, if I am seeing the battery life for the laptop which I am talking about is very long, which means I can utilize that for my overall working when the electricity is not there. So, those are the fronts where I can at least have a tangible benefit. On intangible benefits, maybe say for example, if I visit a doctor, again coming back to the doctor example or the hospital example, if the patient is cured with a lot of positive benefit, obviously I feel that the nursing home is good. Or say for example, if the doctor is talking with very positive sense, or if I think the overall expenses are very low and still I am getting the best services, obviously these are some intangible benefits which a customer would like to have, which can be translated on a concept of quality from the vendors or the supplier side, or the person who is basically giving you the services or the product or the intangible goods. So, quality obviously would be defined on the concept of statistical process control, how different type of statistical tools are used, how different type of distributions are used, how different type of readings are utilized, and they mapped onto the different type of distribution, and you take corrective action based on the different type of charts which you studies. As I mentioned, they can be X bar charts, R charts, P charts, so on and so forth. So, obviously there are some definitions which we will see in the ISO 9000 series. So, how quality is basically considered and where it can be quantified in a very simple terms, as that the person who is going to trying to implement that may take those ISO 9000 concepts into consideration, such that you can at least be able to propagate those informations or those tangible intangible benefits to your customers, such that the people can judge that yes, company 1 is doing better than company 2 with respect to say for example, finances, maybe with respect to market share, maybe say for example, respect to the quality of the products, as I said for the laptop. So, those were the different type of tangible few examples which I gave. So, it may mean that say for example, I am getting the services from one of the online suppliers much faster, or where if a product is not delivered properly on time, or if the product is bad. So, if I basically complain, my overall redressal system of the company is such that the complaints are taken care by the vendor or the e-commerce supplier to the maximum possible extent very fast, such that the customers are happy. So, these are the concepts, and if they can be converted into a concept of ISO 9000 definition. So, obviously, it makes a level playing field in trying to compare different product suppliers along with each other, so that you can take a much more judicious decision that what is the level of quality of one company with respect to the other. So, coming back to the fourth point. So, ISO 9000 definition gives a degree to which a set of inherent characteristics that fulfills a need or expectation of the customer that has been stated, or that is stated in some very clear terms, generally such that it is implied or is obligatory for the customer to understand that the vendor would be willing to supply those levels of competence based on the services or the products which the vendor is willing to supply to the customer. So, those are different set of rules we will consider at the fag end of this course, the concept of ISO 9000 series and what are the actual terms which are generally utilized in the industry, but obviously that would be in the later part, not before. So, there would be 4 different dimensions of quality. So, obviously, when I am talking about quality, or you are talking about quality, or when you are trying to, you as say for example, the CEO of a company or general manager of a company or government official, or say for example, the prime minister, chief minister, whoever is rendering services to the citizens of the country, to the customers, to the suppliers, whoever it is, or the vendors, or say for example, the patients who come and visit you, or say for example, people who come into your bank to open your account. So, you have to basically have concept of quality, rather than that being a very vague term, it should basically have some dimensions or measure matrix based on which you can make a judgment whether that is quality or not. So, the points are, it basically quality would have some performance metric. So, the question would be, will the product do the intended job? So, say for example, if I have a car, or say for example, if I have a cycle, or say for example, if I have a bike. So, my main focus would be, I am giving a very broad example. So, main focus would be whether the car would be running as per the norm stated by the car manufacturer, and whether it is able to fulfill the obligation for which the product has been made. Say for example, if I want to buy some frying pan, and or say for example, I want to buy say for example, from pressure cooker, obviously in the intended the usage of that product would be either to fry or basically to cook some vegetables, cook some food, or use that pressure cooker to cook either mutton or chicken or some other products, or say for example, boil the potato. So, obviously it would mean that it is able to render the services or give me the benefits for which I have basically purchased that product. So, quality would also mean that it has a second dimension, which is reliability. So, how often does the product fail? Is the product very reliable? That means, if I keep using this product, am I able to get the same level of services from time after time? Obviously, there would be depreciation, there would be wear and tear. So, leaving aside those concept of depreciation and wear and tear, obviously I will ask myself each and every time again whether the product has the stated level of reliability, so that I can utilize it without any concern and meet the actual requirement for which the product has been developed. We will also consider the third dimension of quality as durability, and find out how long does the product last. So, which means, so there are two things in general, to make a very fine distinction or try to basically make it a little bit more clear. So, reliability would be that if I keep using it time after time, that what is the performance of the product and whether it will basically continue to work each time when I use that product. And durability would be basically, if I try to utilize it once, how long would that basically product continue. Consider this, if I see for example, I have a heater, which I technically used in winter countries, or if it I use in northern part of India during the winters. So, basically the fan is blowing and there is a coil which gets heated up and the air is blown. So, see for example, if the thermostat is not right, and if basically, and even if the coil is working fine, it may happen that the working of the heater does not happen for a long time, it basically trips very often. So, obviously I would be concerned about the durability of the product, or if say for example, the coil is not of good quality. So, the coil may get heated up and it may snap, or the connection may get disconnected. So, obviously, those points would be considered as a third metric that how you are going to measure quality. Serviceability would be the fact that how easy is it to repair the product. Say for example, I am using a very big machine and they are vacuum circuit breakers. So, vacuum circuit breakers means those type of trip switch or fuse which basically will trip if say for example, there is huge amount of fluctuation in the voltage or the electricity for that product when electricity being utilized as the running concept to run that machine. So, say for example, if it fails, the product fails, obviously we will try to replace that. So, if in replacing that the serviceability is absolutely 0, then obviously it means that how good even the good the product is, and even if it is cheap, obviously it means if I cannot service it, if I cannot replace it, or basically it cannot replace that small part which needs to be replaced, it means that the total amount of money which I have basically invested to get the services, get that product goes to waste. So, obviously it means that I will be trying to basically buy the product again, which is a huge amount, maybe huge amount of cost for me, maybe huge amount of installation charges for me, such that the concept of serviceability comes in such a way that it can be considered as a fourth dimension based on which we can basically measure quality. So, to recap this slide which I just discussed, so dimensions on the metric for quality would be performance, that means how will the product do its intended job. Second would be reliability, so how often does the product fail. Third one would be durability, that means how long does the product last, and the fourth and the last one would be serviceability, that means it will mean that how easy is it to repair the product. Product basically means it may also come, these dimensions may also be used in the terms of serviceability and services also. So, we will consider the dimension which are mentioned are not only for tangible products, it can be for intangible services and intangible products also. To further consider the dimensions of the quality, obviously there would be aesthetics, which would mean that how does the product look like. So, say for example, if I am using as going back to the example of the laptop, if the laptop is very heavy, obviously it will mean that carrying that laptop becomes difficult. So, maybe that the laptop works fine, so it does not get heated up, or say for example, it is able to do all the calculations for intensive computing which for which I have purchased that laptop. So, that is working fine, or say for example, I have purchased that laptop to do my word processing, or say for example, to do the different type of financial calculations, or say for example, to do my design in the sense if I am a interior designer, I may be able to store a lot of different type of design material concepts, or different type of pictures, or different type of dress material design for which I am working, I may be able to store that. But say for example, it is very heavy, so obviously it does not serve my purpose, or in that case the product it does not look, if it looks very heavy, so it cannot be at all utilized. Or say for example, in order to reduce the level of the weightages of the laptop, if say for example, somebody designs it very crudely, so obviously in that sense the aesthetic sense may go for a toss, then I would definitely not consider that as a very good quality metric based on which I can judge how good or bad the product is. Or say for example, I have designed a product which may be a shirt or a pant, or say for example, a dress material, and the quality of the dress material may be fantastic, it is maybe say for example, very good in the summers, or may be very good in the winters, very warm for the winters. But say for example, it has not been designed very aesthetically, or it does not basically follow the norm of aesthetics which people basically would like to have, then obviously it means that on that dimension the quality level characteristics based on which you are going to judge that product would fail. It may also mean that what are the different type of features which they are, and what does the product do. Say for example, you have purchased an AC, again coming back to the concept of the AC, and consider that place where you stay, the temperature fluctuation is very high. So, you would like to basically utilize that AC both as during the summers to cool your room, to cool your office, to cool your the house where you stay, and maybe say for example, during the winters you would like to utilize that AC as a heater. So, if it is a dual purpose machine, obviously we will try to see whether the features for which it has been designed is being met, or may say for example, you have say for example, a washing machine and the place where you stay there it rains continuously, or say for example, the amount of the sun which you want to have for drying your clothes, I am talking about Indian example, is not met. So, so obviously you would want a washing machine which is able to actually properly dry your clothes, such that the amount of time the clothes would be required to be put outside to basically absolutely make them dry would be much less. So, in those examples you will try to basically consider whether the washing machine is able to wash as well as dry it to the level of satisfaction which you want. So, obviously those features should be inbuilt such that you will try to analyze the product based on the features for which it has been designed. So, apart from that, there would be the other quality dimension would be perceived quality. So, which means that what is the reputation of the company or its products. So, consider this example. Say for example, just in and around World War II, Japanese products were not at all considered very good, but today we see that the level of competence or the level of sophistication which the Japanese products have throughout the world is very high. Or say for example, whenever we consider any product of the German build, we always say the German products are of very high quality because they are very robust, and their actual serviceability need not be there because the products survive year after year. Or say for example, somebody considers the Godrej fridge which were initially were there in each and every household in India in the 1970s or little bit after that. So, the products were such that the perceived quality level of the products was very high. So, obviously once if you purchased a Godrej fridge, you are assured that the product would not fail and you can utilize year after year. Or say for example, the product quality of the Bajaj scooter was also considered to be a high level, because there people consider that if you purchased a Bajaj product or a scooter, obviously you got the best quality. But obviously leave aside the dearth of products with respect to Godrej. Say for example, there were no such products which were available as a refrigerator along with Godrej. Obviously Allwyn was there, so in the 1970s, or say for example, no scooters were available. But leaving aside those points, if somebody considers the perceived level of quality, so for these two examples we will see that the perceived level of competence of quality was very high. And obviously quality will mean that what is the level of conformation as to standards. So, to what level the product may exactly be utilized as the designer has intended. Say for example, if I am using a shaving machine, and then my main criteria would be that whether it is able to meet the criteria for which it has been designed. Or say for example, if say for example, I have a vacuum cleaner. So, I will try to basically see that the overall features based on which the machine has been designed is able to meet the overall level of quality and the services or the product or the services of the intangible goods for which I have basically purchased that product. With that, I will close the first lecture amongst this 40 lecture series which is there for the 20 hours for total quality management. So, as I said that the first few lectures would be more qualitative in nature, and then later on depending on how we have picked up, I will basically fasten up the pace such that we can cover the different type of quantitative concepts of quality in much depth and utilize the concept which I am basically discussing throughout the lectures in such a way that they would basically make a sense that how the qualitative concept we are studying, how the qualitative concept which we see on the shop floor, on the services which are being rendered to me or the services which I am basically giving to my customers, there I can utilize the different types of quantitative concepts which I learn or which we learn through the overall course, such that they would make sense that how quality can be brought into the picture in our everyday life to improve the overall life and overall quality of the services or the products which we either deliver or which we purchase from different type of vendors. Thank you, and with that I will close this first lecture, and then I will start with the second lecture depending on the other concepts which are to be covered. Thank you, have a nice day.